we have to remember, like we didn't have computers. Like we had those. That's why I know those dolphins were real.
Yeah, they
Like
were.
those
I'm saying
dolphins
they were
were
real.
there and they're real.
What's going on? As you can see, I'm on a roll. I am running. And it reminds me, I used to have a segment that I was trying to drop on this channel called The Rolling Review, which was essentially me going on a walk and talking about movies that I watched. I did like one or two, I think, that I don't think I ever published. But I do want to bring that segment back at some point, so working my way to that. But today, this is kind of like that, except I'm not going to be alone this time, and it won't be a full rolling situation. I mentioned before that I had a conversation with the Maestro coming up, and we shot it at the end of 2024 and never got around to releasing it. And as you know, there have been other reviews that have been getting up, and I think now is a good time to release the Maestro cut, as it were. Um, this movie, you've seen the title, you know what it is. We're going to be discussing Under Siege. Got a chat with the Maestro coming up. Let's go.
This
But
came
when
up
you
in
have
a
two
regular.
males, when two males are just in the same circumference, the topic of Under Siege eventually arrives. With
This, this,
women, it's other topics that they broach which are just as meaningful. For men, we look at each other and say, Under
yeah,
Siege?
under siege.
There we go.
Just say the words under siege.
Well, first,
We're
before
gonna get some good
we
movies.
dive into it, before we
Yeah.
dive into that, though, I want to know what was your, because mine was 4 or 5 years ago, so I had already
Okay. Right.
become an embittered adult by the time I saw this.
Yeah.
For you,
For yes, it's a good question for me. I gotta go back to probably 90, 91, 92. So I remember I was a kid in the 90s, like such as yourself, young kid, was aware of a lot of the. And my parents had a barbershop salon, so we had a lot of movies. There was tons of movies in there, sports movies, action movies, movies that probably shouldn't have been watching at the age I was, but a ton of movies. So and then right near us was a video store, like maybe two doors down, and there was this, and then up the street was another video store. We would also go we would go rent VHSs from these places. And I remember seeing the Under Siege poster there. There was a poster on in the window with the Navy. He's got the Navy. So I remember the poster, and then I'd seen a TV spot, uh, like when the commercials would come on Under Siege. Well, the John LaFontaine movie voice guy, like the movie voice guy, Under Siege. Like that was the mess. So I'd seen pieces over the years. I think the first time, and then I have one of my good friends. Shout out to Brandon Cue Ball. We were hanging out. He hit me with the Under Siege, one of the shootout sequences in the movie, just by verbatim. We would do movie quotes together. Hit me with that. So I knew a little bit more about it. Still had never seen the movie in its full entirety. The first time I fully watched the movie, though, was actually months before you and I had the first conversation about the Under Siege, which was probably about like I want to say I saw it in full this year, like right back in I want to say probably June, July. Probably it was the first time I watched it. It was the first time I actually watched it fully. That was sort of the fullness of it, and I think obviously we both have a familiarity with Steven Seagal. That's known about the Seagal like from since a kid. A lot of a lot of
a lot of arm breaks, a lot of
oh, a lot of
ponytails,
arm breaks. In fact, this is I don't think I've
a
ever
lot
said.
of a lot of lack of both cardio and seemingly push-ups.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
lack of any definition in
yeah,
his arms.
yeah. That's the other thing too, and then also like an abundance of this kind of movie, whatever this is. The the wait with yeah, go hit him with
Uh-huh.
this
Uh-huh.
with the
Uh-huh. No, yeah. Yeah. There is a lot of this. There is a lot of like just it's almost like John Travolta-esque from Saturday Night
that's
Fever.
that's what I was trying to think. I was like, what does that look like? I couldn't think of it, but that's
That or it's like
or
mimicking a
the
bike.
So it's like this kind of stuff, but with this though.
There's a lot of posing. There's a lot of imposing. I remember a story where it was a producer, a movie he was one of those, cigar chomping producers, right?
Old school guys. Yeah.
Yeah. And he's like, money, money, money. How am I gonna make money? And I remember he was like supposed to, like, I think Steven Seagal was like his karate instructor or something, martial arts instructor. And that's how he knew. The producer saw this guy. I was like, this guy's, I gotta make him a star. This guy's a star. And he had never taken a class of acting. I don't even know if he ever really wanted to be an actor. And then I think he went to his friends and said, it's easy. I can make a star out of anyone. Watch. I'm gonna get this. This
Yeah, this guy.
I'm gonna get this balding 36-year-old man with no definition in his upper body. And I'm gonna make him a star. And I'll be damned if the man didn't put through. But it really harkens back to a different Hollywood where the spectacle was what you paid for. You paid for the spectacle of what the movie, where it took place, and the genre. Didn't really matter if the person could emote emotions, right?
I think
And
too, by
I
the token, is that it didn't really matter what the story was either. You could put them in any run of the mill story that has even like a sliver of a conflict. Then that's put him in that. That's
it's like the same notion that was what I was thinking about when I saw the movie was what Halloween did in 1978, where you have a film with no noticeable actors. There's a person who's really good, Donald Pleasance, but
oh yeah,
you have this huge explosion of revenue of this is a big hit, and it's a genre. There are cookie cutter portions of this that you can replicate. And it's never going to be as good as the original, but you can replicate this. In the 80s, you see an enormous amount of horror films that come out with the mentality of let's make money. So let's go ahead and just copy the template. We don't need the actors. Don't worry. We're going to have the poster's going to sell it and the threat of a killer, and that's all we need. And I think around the mid 80s, especially to the early 90s, the action genre got on that, where you had many different producers who were only income driven, saying it doesn't matter who we get, we can get any person. All we need is someone's on a mountain. There's a bag of money that fell, and we have to fight the Russian. The Russians are coming to get it, and explosions, a lot of explosions, and then grenades. And we're like, you got yourself a winner. And it took that amount, yeah, that amount of thought, and it just littered, like you were talking about, it littered every video store.
Yeah.
Where it wasn't about the poster, because we didn't go to the movie theaters to see a lot of these.
Right.
All that mattered was what the cover of the video was, and the quote, like the punchline.
Right, yeah, you're right. Yeah, the tagline, because you knew that was going to hook him. Once you saw that where the poster was, either if the actor didn't get you, the tagline was going to get you. You're gonna be like, I want to see that. And of course, they always have the lead actors, the name already. It's whoever the main actor is, and then whatever else, the title, and then some other stuff on the side. Steven Seagal was the name of that was the top of the poster, and then it was like big letters, Steven Seagal, and then his head with the.
I mean, when you're walking by a film and you see that the tagline is "Crime is a disease, meet the cure," and it's Cobra, and he has a giant gun. As a kid, you're like, this is it. This is my gateway into adulthood right here. It was a great way to make money quickly. And you saw, especially with films like Death Wish, which went up to like Death Wish 5.
Death Wish, they had Death Wish was another one. The vigilante
which was
genre was a major. Dirty Harry was in that same sort of category. Then there's like 5 or 6 of them, and then you had a whole other. That was another area where the first one's always it's classic. Maybe the second one is also equally good or just as good, but after that it starts getting, it's like, well, Dirty Harry though, you can make a case a little bit for some of those films where they actually tried to have engaging stories a little bit, but I think when you start seeing more of the money grab stuff like late 70s, early mid 80s, where now it's going to be, it's, you saw what worked. We're going to remake this other thing or repurpose this other thing, and it's going to be cookie cutter, you know, all the way through. Just, and they were, you know, it was working. Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street. You had, you know, it was just, there's a whole bunch of them. You could just
It's like they made a factory and they just said it doesn't matter the
turn them out.
quality.
Just
The
turn them out.
if the cover art looks great, we're gonna get
Oh
rentals.
yeah,
All
yeah.
you cared about was this huge boom. DVDs were like 2 or 3 years away from this film. It was
That's
95 is when they
yes,
came
sir.
out. So the
Yeah.
boom of
Yep.
videotapes was the way you drove revenue. And so that's why there was just you just had to put out material. And I think that the interesting thing you brought up was the Steven Seagal character. You have a person who can't emote ever. This guy can't act for beans, for nothing, right? So then you ask yourselves, well, then we're going to have to adapt to his limits. And I think his character is kind of just combination of Dirty Harry, because he's this person who has a sense of self-righteousness,
Yeah.
doesn't comply with the authorities if they seem to be not. I don't know if I don't know. He's just not he's not going to bow to authority, and it's a mixture of that with the man with no name from the trilogy, because
Yeah.
that person, Clint Eastwood, who played that character, never spoke, and there was a kind of stoicism that was kind of heroic. So if you have a person like Sako who can't emote, he's going to have to be quiet, and he's
Yep.
going to have to be able to be authoritative. And so I think if you put those two together, that's how the producers could work with the limits of a character who wouldn't be able to really speak much convincingly.
We talked about this last time too. Like when we talked about what is actually, what is Under Siege, like as a, if you were to put, like you talk about what Casey Ryback is as a character, like he's an amalgam of all these different sort of other iconic sort of lone hero characters. But the structure of the film, it's like we mentioned, we talked about, it's like, oh, this is when they were started. They're also speaking about cookie cutters and factory production of different types of genres and subgenres. You got Die Hard in the late 80s, 88. And then this movie wasn't that far away. This movie is Die Hard on a submarine or on a, on the Missouri or whatever it is, right? So you have to right. So then you Ryback is not, he's not John McClane, but you could put him in the class of like, okay, he's like one of those, he's one of the lone heroes who's, trying to fight his way through a bunch of terrorist dudes, whatever it is, who has at some point gets to make contact with the outside world for whoever, whether it's the Pentagon or whether it's Al from, like, although it's not really a comparison because you don't have that was, I think, the Pentagon stuff was the only sort of section that had really a modicum of like, oh, this is actually, this is some real stuff. You can feel the tension in this room. The dude who was who tried to have Stranix killed, he was like, oh, hey, you gotta explain yourself right now. Dude smoking cigarettes, he's chain smoking and stuff. He's nervous, like, as he's explaining to his superiors what happened. Like, oh, that's real conflict. There's some real character stuff going on. I'm with that, but to the extent that that's the extent of the, like, if you were to compare it to Die Hard, there's some similarities in that way where you're having real stuff going on with like the FBI and the cops on the outside. But that's where the similarities in, because Die Hard had conflict within McClane too. You had like real meat, flesh and blood stuff that in this movie, it's like, it's sort of half of that. You got to have real meat, sort of real stuff on the outside, but on the Missouri, Casey Ryback is like, he's pretty one dimensional. I think that's the, so you, which is, it's just unfortunate that if you mentioned Man with the No Name, you mentioned Dirty Harry, all these other dudes, they have like real meat to them. And for Casey Ryback to be an amalgam of those dudes and actually be like less than less than them in terms of like, because at least they were characters, so they actually had like character. And I think Casey doesn't really have, he has character, but it's not much. It's like it's very like one note, and there's not a lot.
He's very sarcastic. That's his thing. Is like he'll say a joke, but he'll be damned if he cracks a smile. He's so cool, and he's so
Yeah.
sarcastic all the time. I think that's his main thing, because you can fake sarcasm and make it seem charming,
Yeah.
But you just can't be charming. You can't be Bruce Willis. Hey, that guy can charm the pants on anything. But
So my,
even the Pentagon scene, because there's the scene in the film where he gets in contact with like the top brass who
right,
have
yeah.
ability to intervene and send troops or to the Missouri, which is this like the ship. And but even that character, because we need that character, but again, he's taken from Rambo 1, where you have the
Oh,
sergeant
yeah,
character who has to
right,
be
yeah.
introduced
Yeah.
to let everyone in the room know,
Oh,
aka the viewers, this is what you're up against. This person
oh,
is
that guy,
blank,
yeah,
blank,
yeah.
blank,
You
blank,
talking about
blank,
that?
blank.
Yeah,
He's
this
a
guy's like this.
bad, yeah, you're gonna
Uh,
need more body bags. But that guy had gravitas.
yeah, that was serious. Like that guy's
Yeah.
like, that's the guy you need. I was talking about the first guy when you first go to the Pentagon sequence, and he's let in by the woman, him and this woman, they go in. He's the guy who was like, "Yo, you messed up with with Stranix. We're gonna have to like that." He was probably the most. He had real. I think you're right. Everything else was like it's basically it is like the captain from Rambo. It's like all the other dudes that were there. So they're there to support why Casey Ryback is such a gangster. Like this guy's like, yo, Stranix, dude's crazy. We tried to neutralize him. We missed. This is what's going on.
And we're talking about Tommy Lee Jones.
Exactly right.
We haven't mentioned that. Who
Right.
is taking his performance. He is Two-Face. He is.
Yeah.
There was never a need for him to become Two-Face 3 years later or 4 years later. He was already auditioning for Two-Face with this part. Bizarre choice of, I think, a Southern accent.
Well, see, here's the thing. Let's talk about the accent. See, because the accent was the other thing. So remember, Tommy Lee Jones from Texas, right? So he had the accent. There was a Texas sort of drawl mixed up in there. But when you at first glance you go like, okay, does it work for this dude, for this character? This dude's supposed to be like, when you first meet him, they're coming on off the helicopter as musicians, whatever it is. When music is my life, whatever. That's all. At first, it's like, okay, you question whether or not it works. But I think the music stuff, like before everything jumps off, like that feels like okay. I didn't think about the accent too much, but as the movie goes on, and there's more talking, there's more cartoonish the antics. It was funny because that guy he's like he's a cartoon Looney Tunes fan, so he's making all these references to all these different right. Then it didn't bother me as much. I don't know. Did the accent bother you?
It seemed to be almost a caricature in the beginning, as if he was trying to. The way he spoke was so exaggerated. I thought it was part of his disguise, so people wouldn't notice. But the truth is, no one's gonna notice him. No one knows who the hell he is, anyways. So why is he masking it with his huge? And I think I was just really confused by that. And I think he keeps it pretty firm. It's not as exaggerated throughout the rest of the film.
Right.
The thing I really want to know is how the heck did he find that group of mercenary assassins who play that awesome rock and roll?
That's
like, dude, did he have to look for the assassin part first, or you must be able to play some Chuck Berry with me? Like every guy drops their instrument and holds an assault machine gun. I'm like, holy shit! Like everyone in the band is a mercenary, and they all rock. Like, how did he go on Indeed? How do you really search for these individuals who are that talented?
That's a great question because let me tell you. So I was rewatching it earlier today, and I was thinking about like similarly. My thought was like, okay, so Dink Stranding's because he's on the harmonica doing stuff. I was like, oh man, he's really
dude. He was killing it.
He was like, so he was a former military dude, whatever. He was operative, but he also did he learn while he was on the various jobs. He learned how to play. It was like, but I didn't think about the mercenaries though. I was like, oh yeah, all those dudes, at least the dudes on stage. Because he had dudes on stage and dudes who were like fake, like
the waiters.
But the dudes on stage were still mercenaries, though. Those dudes still knew how to.
I was looking like a hawk. I was like, dude, there's got to be one bassist who isn't part of this, who's gonna get murked right now. And no, everyone was part of it. And I was like, there had to be one. I rewound it twice to make sure every band member, including the keyboardist, they could handle that Tommy gun. And I was like, wow. I guess no one frisked them either because they all had submachine guns. It wasn't like they were holding little purse guns.
That's the other thing too, because they had to get there was some kind of clearance they had to get through to get on. Right. There should have been like, yo, Captain was like, yo, how'd you need this helicopter to land without my authorization?
Well,
That's one.
the captain looks like Craig T. Nelson from Naked Gun. The guy's
Hey,
108.
hold on, hold
Have
on.
you
First
noticed? I
of
don't
all,
even think he
wait,
ever left the couch or the
wait,
chair. He was
you're right.
behind his desk and then he sat in his other place. Did we see him erect in this film? Are
Yeah,
we sure he was murdered? He didn't just die of natural causes? That captain was old.
he was old though. This. But to be fair, look, we got to make this distinction. At that time, where this movie came out, 93, right? 90, no, 92, 92, because right, 93 is part two. So 93, Craig T. Nelson was actually getting juiced on Coach. We're talking about like this is he was looking more like
Oh my, I'm sorry. I didn't beat Craig T. Nelson. I
I was
meant
like,
the
come on,
guy from
man,
the Naked Gun. What's the guy from the Naked
Leslie
Gun?
Nielsen.
Leslie Nielsen.
But Leslie Nielsen was
The Craig T.
actually,
Nelson. He was from Coach. I was thinking of his little buddy, the little
oh
guy,
yeah, right, Jerry Van Dyke.
his assistant. Yeah. I like how you know his name. I'm sorry, Leslie Nielsen. My part. Just edit that back and put
But
that
we'll cut
name
that
in
out.
there.
We'll cut that. But also,
No,
look,
you keep it. You
Leslie
keep this.
Nielsen was actually probably looking better than that dude, though. He was looking better than the captain. I think Leslie Nielsen was still like kind of G. In 92, he was looking better than the captain.
I believe that the guy who shot him got off on a technicality saying that the
Oh, he
captain
did
had
say,
been dead for 5 minutes before he shot him. So I believe he was the only person who walked. He was like, oh, I guess so, because this guy's 88 and it was horrible, man.
that's to be fair. But then tell me why they shot him again, though. He was already dead. And they came in.
Yeah, did you notice that
I'm
there was
like,
a second guy
what?
who just jumped in, the dude with the
He came
giant
in.
head? Yeah.
I was like, oh, you just shot him. Wait, what? Wait, Catherine's already gone. You just shot him again? You shot him.
I was like, it wasn't even a double tap. It was just a straight up gut shot.
Yeah,
It
was
wasn't
like,
even. It was a gut shot. It was like it was right in his gut. I'm like, dude, this isn't gonna help do anything. And don't worry, don't
way
feel
after
bad.
the
He's on
first
his
time.
way out.
Yeah, he's like already like, okay, he's already out of there. So like, and it's way after the initial shot. He got shot twice already by which con the XO annex or whatever it is. Like,
Yeah.
okay. Then his homeboy's gonna come in and shoot him once, like 5 minutes later. Like,
I mean, but the thing is, they did send him over there. He was like, go check him out. So I think he was like, dude, I just showed up too late. I'm worthless. So in the scene, so I'm just gonna jump in, shoot him once, and hey, I came to do what I did, you know? But it goes to show that you have Tommy Lee Jones at 11. I mean, this guy is out of his mind in this film. Like he is. It was crazy to see him that energetic because I'm used to seeing him in films where he's catatonic almost,
more
and he
like,
has that gravitas.
yeah.
But no, it's just Two-Face. And then you go over and you have the lunatic Gary Busey, confirmed lunatic who I love, and their performances are so huge that you know it was the producer, the director has said, this guy Seagal, I don't know if he took a sedative before he jumped on the set. I can't see him do anything. So let's get you guys ramping the energy up because it isn't coming from the main guy. So I think that was the game plan. Like we have to counterbalance this.
I actually like that read. I actually wouldn't have thought that. To me, it just felt like, okay, you got this guy because on that note too, like this is Seagal similarly plays. He's not that different in a lot of the other movies.
He's the same guy.
Like literally, what's his name? Every now and again, he'll have moments where he gets to raise his voice or scream, whatever it is. There's a quote from I don't even remember Mr. Miyagi, Pat Morita. Pat Morita he had a guest spot on The Fresh Prince of Bel Air one time. I don't know if you remember this episode where Will Smith went to ask him, "Yo, I want to be be like Steven Seagal," and Pat Morita's response is, "Oh, so you want to be a bad actor?" Right, and so the
so we knew then. That was like the 90s. We knew then.
Right? We're already in the midst.
This is before Glimmer Man. This is
Oh,
before. I don't know if it was before Glimmer Man, but that was when we all knew, like, oh no, the Emperor has no clothes. What the hell is this? This guy's a buffoon.
He has moments, where he gets to like do different things with the voice, but his voice is pretty much like you know,
Yeah. It's like he squints too, like he smells of fire. He's like, yeah. Oh yeah, it's really bad. And he's just like he's so sarcastic, you know. I'm just a cook. Mm. And it's just like it's just horrible acting. And he wasn't good then when I saw it 4 years ago. Still not good now. But then you think, okay, this film, you know, the mercenaries have taken over to grab nukes, right?
right.
And I'm watching the film and I'm like, all right. And all of a sudden, it seems as though they're building like a brand new ship on board. Like everyone has their,
Yeah,
all of
yeah.
a sudden, they have all that gear
All
to
these
build
tools and stuff.
something.
Yeah.
And it took me a long while to be like, what the heck is going on? Like, why are they tearing down the ship piece by piece? And I didn't know, like, no, they need to build rails to move the nukes off the ship. And I'm like, that is such a bizarre, bizarre thing when it could be so much easier than having this construction on the site. That's
It's
just,
actually,
I don't know. That's just
it's
a
not,
pet peeve of mine. I'm sorry.
no, you don't even.
Because there's many lapses of logic in this film. All right, like
Yeah, let's talk about it. Let's
let's
unpack
just
them. Yeah,
mention all of them. Let's just mention
right.
all of
We
them.
got right. We got the
So
transport.
so we have Jordan, the playmate of the
Right,
century.
right. Yeah, that's right. Oh my gosh, let's talk about.
We got to talk about Jordan, who I think was one of the better acters in the film. And I was staring hard. I was like,
Agreed.
this is gonna be bad or is this gonna be great? And she tried so hard.
Agreed. She definitely
And
felt.
she's sitting there talking to like the human like potato bag of an actor, Steven Seagal. Then nothing comes back from him. But she takes these meds and she takes these she overdoes the sleeping meds and she's in the cake, right? She's supposed to jump out of a cake for this
Yeah,
98-year-old captain, right? But when she falls asleep in the cake, like there's mayhem breaks out all over the ship. People are being blown to bits. Explosions are happening. Still doesn't wake up from it.
that's
And
right.
it isn't until Seagal walks by and nudges it that she goes into like dance. She went from comatose to
To
straight up dance stripper. Because you would have had to believe it. She was waiting to hear, but she would have heard gunshots. She went from 0 to 60, and I was like, "What is this? What a trooper! She's a true performer, you know."
we're talking about the some of the lapses of judgments in this movie. With regard to Jordan, um, you're right. That's definitely weird. Following that, when Casey's questioning her and he's about to leave her, she's he's just explained to her like, "Yo, there's dudes on the ship killing everybody. Stay here, you'll be safe." And she's pounding on the locker room, like, "Okay, I'm going like hecka loud, screaming." So okay,
He
so
keeps going. Now she throws her in the locker, and he keeps going. He
yeah, just yeah,
It happens like 3 times in the
yeah. Before he,
film.
I was like,
He's like, he looks back, he goes, "Come on, stay there. Come on." It's like we got to keep it moving.
you got work to do. You don't have time to be messing with her. And then she's talking about, okay, she doesn't want to be alone. Cool. All right. So then he takes her on the mission or whatever it is. And then she's complaining about all these different things. Like, yo, how come I have to carry everything? And my favorite, this is a segue to slightly. We'll get to this later, but I'm gonna segue to this one liner because it really struck me because I forgot about it the first time I watched it, which was the women's lib line. He said something to her about like, hey, I support women's lib, don't you? Don't you? And their response is like, oh yeah, when it works in my favor. You could tell. So someone wrote this.
That is not a feminine pro. Yeah, when I heard that line, I was like,
I was like,
ooh.
wait a minute.
Is she the villain? Is she are we supposed to not like her now?
And I think that I know this is an attempt at trying to generate some
Tension between the two, right? A dynamic, because we're not going to
right. We're
create
not really going to get it.
chemistry
Right,
of love.
right, right. So you're right. You're getting some sexual tension or whatever it is, sexual tension, but also some degree of like levity, some kind of humor that's in there where it's like it doesn't feel natural. It's not like a natural type of like, oh, that's a generally funny exchange between them. It's just the lines is kind of weird. It's like why would he say that? Why would she say this? That's weird in this context. Like not that not that
The
it has to,
dynamic, it's a really odd dynamic because there is no chemistry between an actress and him, right? And he seems to be talking down to her in a way because
yeah,
he's the expert of the situation and she's just a lowly stripper or playmate. He gives her a gun
And then
with
yeah, he has to explain to her how to use it. And look, this is the automatic, semi-automatic. That was weird too. Like, yo, if like, just in case you don't know how to use these, this is what I'm giving you. If you hit this switch, it's gonna be this. This switch is this. It's like then it almost feels like that's a lengthy explanation for someone who just put it on one setting and like, yo, use this. If you see somebody coming, just pull the trigger. Just like, why do you gotta explain to her all these different?
yeah. He's like, why is he going into like when was this made? Like, is it German inspired? Was it used in World War One? Like who?
What? Like,
This isn't an antique show, man. You don't have to break it down because this girl's already, gone through
it's
some
already
trauma.
scared.
And
Right.
it's disgusting. It's disgust. I mean, the fact of the matter is, Steven Seagal in every film is always portrayed as the coolest guy, the guy who does everything. And like in the beginning of the film, he's always making these awful, stupid, sarcastic jokes. Ah, everyone's yelling, "Hey,
Everyone loves him. That's the
right,
thing.
right back.
Hey,
Hey, how about this?"
that's the other thing. It's like not only is he telling weird jokes and stuff like that, it's that he he's designed as a character that everyone's supposed to like love automatically.
Revere,
Doesn't have
revere.
like charisma or whatever it is, and like actual like yo, this you could see how someone would like this guy. But
Yeah.
and he's like the one giving directives to everybody, even older senior officers. Like yo, this guy. Like wait. There's okay. I understand there's supposed to be some level of respect on this ship. And yeah, Ryback, Chief Ryback, cool. All right, yeah, respect Chief Ryback. But also, this dude is older than you. You don't have respect for this dude. You're talking to him like he's a new new
And he's
recruit.
a horrible cook, man.
Yeah,
Did you see the close up of the soup or whatever he was making? It looked like sewage water that you clean your socks in. Remember, did they show this what he's cooking? That bolognese or whatever? It is atrocious. He sucks at cooking, man. Like I would think you'd try to make him look very competent in that because you're
right,
making him know everything. I
right.
mean, the dude knows how to remove a nuke from. Remember when he's removing a nuke from a missile? The dude, the dude goes up to the microwave, puts that one
And he puts it
like something in there, but he puts the timer to like 20 minutes because like 20 minutes of the film goes and then it explodes. It exploded
dude.
20 minutes after he put it in there. And then he fiddled, and then he's a master electrician because he goes in and
Yeah,
he fiddled with the electricity, and then it says it's gonna go off in 10 minutes. And he leaves it, and he's damn right. What did you do in setting a timer with these? Like, how do you know how to do that? He just does. It's it's infuriating. He's the guy everyone loves, every woman wants to be with. And
yeah.
he's also the guy who runs like he has never ran in his life.
Oh,
The
let's
way
talk
he
about that
runs.
run.
Let's talk about the way let's talk about the waddle he does.
The arms
Oh,
going. This-
he runs. I don't everyone who's watching this has YouTubed him running, and if not, you need to. There is a lot of flailing of the arms. Like we've mentioned before countless times, there is no tone to his arms. He's never encountered a push-up he liked. This dude, this guy, I don't know what else he believes in, but he does not believe in a healthy diet, and he doesn't believe in a push-up. So his running, but like even when he's running with a gun, it's like
yeah, it doesn't feel.
he has really like no stride. He looks like Humpty Dumpty coming at you. Like it looks like he looks like a Muppet. You know, in the Muppets, they just kind of he goes like that and just moves towards you. He's bad, and he's not. Yeah, it's not good. It's not good. Gary Busey dresses up as a woman, which was insane when I first saw it.
Wow, it's like what?
He dresses up as a woman, and I'll be damned if he didn't dance the hell out of that scene. He channeled his inner 42nd Street or whatever, West Side Story.
He committed. He fully committed.
And he stays in that outfit for like 3 more scenes, right? Like he left, and I'm like, we keep cutting back. I'm like, dude, you could take it off. The captain's dead. He's like, no, I'm rocking the
But
fake
that's the other thing
boobs.
too. He was still wearing this stuff still when the captain died. It was a while before he changed. Oh, I gotta go change. But you should have been changed. As soon as you took the captain out, you can go change then. Because everybody's coming up. They're gonna be up there. They'll secure the site. you don't have to be there. Just go change change your stuff.
Exactly.
Come back.
We don't need you to look. This is kind of distracting. We're very serious people here, trying to do a very serious thing. We're selling nukes to people who want to buy them, and you're walking around like Raquel Welch. So it takes me a while to get the plot. Like, let's go back to the plot. So Tommy Lee,
Insult to Raquel Welch. I gotta say, like she's Raquel Welch. Come on, you can't compare the two.
it's so bad. So we go
Okay,
back, right?
plot. All right, the plot.
We're
All right.
going back, right?
Going
So
back, going back.
Tommy Lee plays a person who was a mercenary for hire from America, got double crossed. They tried to eliminate him because he had all this intel, and they didn't do so, and now it's payback. They
Right,
make it seem as though he's going to kind of destroy a part of the world, I guess. Like he's crazy at the very beginning.
right,
He makes it seem that way. He's a loose cannon, right? The new revolution, new revolution. And then you find out that he's selling these nukes to France and to other places because it's all about money, right? And so Casey Ryback, meanwhile, is held up in a freezer trying to break out, and he is I mean, there's the scene where he talks to the Pentagon, and I wrote it down in my notes. He has the same emotion as if ordering a bucket of KFC with the way he speaks to these guys on the
right.
intercom. Like there is no emotion. It's like he wants an 18 piece, but he's talking about like these guys are here. They're wasting people. It's like the same amount of energy he spends ordering the KFC is done when he speaks to the Pentagon.
KFC, what?
It's just awful. It's awful. It's bad. But so we're gonna talk. Let's just go straight into. We're gonna talk about now, like.
Wait, okay, wait. So I'm sorry. That's hilarious. I wouldn't have. Oh man, excuse me.
I got all these notes. Look at all these
No, yeah,
notes.
we're gonna
Suddenly he can fly a helicopter. Like remember, he's
Oh,
like, do
that's
you know how to
right.
fly?
Yeah.
He flew a helicopter.
What? Yeah.
I wrote he runs like an 8-year-old running to the toilet. That's the way he runs, like an 8-year-old going to the toilet. Oh, there's the one scene in the film, by the way, where Tommy Lee says we're gonna flood. There's a
Oh
tank
yeah.
on the ship that has like 20 guys, and they're like, we're gonna flood that with water, and we're gonna show it to him because we're gonna track them in, and then we can get him because he's gonna want to save them. Did we ever see what happened to those guys?
We did. Yeah, they did.
Okay,
Yeah,
because
they did save the
I
guys
think they
eventually.
just escaped by themselves or
Right.
something, right? Because I
They had to
blinked
get
and I
him
was
out.
like, what
Yeah,
happened to the drowning guys?
yeah, no, they had to get him out. They blew the door. Once it was clear that, hey, Tyrannus was done. Like the main villains were done. They went back into the bottom and released the thing. All
Okay.
the water came out. And
Okay.
they also but it was weird because they didn't just go, oh, they poured out of the
Oh, did they really with the water?
like,
I don't know what happened. Did I glaze out of that?
they
Did
like,
they really and they just
but
spilled out like milk?
yeah, what was funny though, they tried to make it was like this triumphant scene, and the music was like really bombastic. Yeah, and they were like sliding out of the roof because that was how they were saying.
It's so bad. It's so
Like,
bad.
because there was not that much water, and it wasn't that much water for them like to like
Yeah.
pour out.
Yeah, it's
There was
like,
a
dude,
lot
we're
in
on
there,
it.
but not
Yeah.
like that. It wasn't like
They had to kind of maneuver with it. Like, we only got a bucket. You only have a bucket of water. Just really emphasize you're running out of there. Because we can't flood up this place because we have to use this set for someone
right
else.
for something else, like Maverick or whatever else is gonna be shot in the
Yeah.
water.
Yeah. In 40 years, Tom Cruise is going to use this for Dead Reckoning.
Oh,
Um,
I was talking about Mel Gibson's Maverick, but yeah, you're
Mel Gibson's Maverick. There's a sub in there.
yeah.
There's no ship on that.
Like, there's no shit, but I'm saying, you might need some water by the ocean somewhere.
Okay, good. Because I'm thinking of Jodie Foster. I'm thinking of that. I'm thinking of like, where was there a ship? No, I get what you're saying now. I mean, there's only one scene that's worth anything. And
What's that?
it's my favorite kill. It's my favorite kill. I want us to say it at the same time. All
Okay,
right, I'm gonna
so
count
okay,
to
but I
three.
think I know what you're. I think I know what the kill because this might be mine too. I think so. We're
All
gonna
right, we're
say
gonna count. I'm gonna count to three. We're gonna both say it at the same time.
we
Yeah.
might word it differently though. I'm trying to say
It
like a.
doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I'm gonna read it right now. This is the only kill that was worth something. Ready?
All right, here we go.
Three, two, one. The guy who eats the pole.
Yep, yeah, yep. That's the one. Yep,
Let's talk about that brilliance.
that was pretty. It was pretty brilliant. It's the
Yeah.
only. It's one of the few up to that point anyway. It's the first kill where there isn't any, close quarters combat or no gunfire. He Ryback had just shot his way through the corridor, or whatever, to get to that stage where the dude was coming to the room, and oh, you see the rope? Okay, we're just gonna just first of all, okay, the
And
kill is yeah,
he leans in and goes,
that's exactly. At first, I was like, how did he know
as if
that the
stealing
one?
an apple pie from like a head, like Yogi Bear. He
Yeah,
just leans in, grabs it. Like that's the how limber and quietly he did that. Did you notice that? How quietly he did that?
I didn't think of it like that, but actually, it actually is perfect when you think about, especially when you think about the Looney Tunes cartoons and how much they look. This is a Warner Brothers production. Looney Tunes, Warner Brothers situations. It's all up in there. When you're talking about like how characters like Granny, Tweety's Granny, she would make these pies, whatever it is, and then you see like the steam coming from the things.
Yeah.
Sylvester, somebody's gonna come. I mean, they're all interchangeable. Yogi Bear would do the same thing. Hannah, they all did the same stuff. So if you do that, it makes
Seagal is in there.
that Steven Seagal could come in and like I didn't make the connection, but it actually makes that sequence better. I think that makes like it was already tight just because of the kill.
I mean, I mean,
Looney
I
Tunes
mean,
connection makes it better to me. I think.
it's insane. I mean, he also knows how to use a flame tool. Like he knows how to use the
Oh yeah,
flaming
immediate.
tool.
It's just
He just threw it on like
yeah.
I'm like, dude, all right, you know how to do that too. He knows how to make a homemade backpack bomb.
Oh yeah, he did. Right. He had the pot, which he used some of the kitchen stuff for. He just boil some water and put some stuff over the plate. So it's like, oh, see, let's talk about that because to me, I was like, okay, this feels like it's a poor attempt at. I could see if it was done well, you can make it. You can find a metaphor for cooking. Like this is like, oh, we're gonna make this. This is like this guy's a cook, and also when he's making these bombs, this is like it's just cooking. It's the same. It's the same. The same.
He's
like
cooking murder. Like he's just,
yeah,
what's
yeah,
on the
like,
menu? Chaos.
right, which fits with a lot of. It's funny because in a better worse. I meaning like how some action movies are straight up like they're not the best movies, but they might have something that's like, oh, that's a cool line. I don't care, the movie's terrible, but that line is tight, or this is kind of lyrical. I like that. Like I feel like it's that sequences of him building stuff, making bombs and making all that stuff with the kitchen and stuff. There's an attempt. It's like, oh, there's something right there to make it poetic. This dude's a cook, but he's also like, he military dude, whatever. It's like you can make that, you can elevate that and make it like, oh, this is like what you said. Hey, it's on the menu. It's like a man on fire. Hey, Crease's art. It's like an artist, Crease's art is death. It's that kind of situation. If that's true, that kind of line, it's like, okay, the movie might be mediocre, but that elevates to this like, okay, that's the kind of this is what I was watching going, okay, I could see how that could be like kind of cool that this dude is like, he's been like this lowly cook with some secret set of skills and stuff, but he also knows, but building a bomb and doing those, that's another skill than just like killing people. Like it requires some craftsmanship and some care to like gently take the little detonator thing off the thing, and like whereas like Macho Man as he's supposed to be, there is a level of like, oh, I gotta have some like you don't roughly stir if you're trying to make a cake, like you don't like over you got there's some like love you got to put into it. So it's like if you want to see it, like if people want to see it, like hey, it just wasn't executed as well. It's like, yo, you could have been like, yo, Casey Ryback actually he's been a cook so long now that
The backstory.
he's found a way to sort of make love to the idea of making a bomb, or or building this taking the detonator out of the thing, whatever. It's like it's all just cooking. It's all one thing. He just happens to be very good.
I mean, in this film, did you ever feel as though he was in jeopardy? Like he was ever in danger?
See, there's that. My answer to that question is when I first watched it, I was what surprised me was there's a sequence when he goes to the submarine that's gonna that arrived to collect the warheads, and he's trying to blow it up. He goes into the water to put the bomb there, and when they discover him, that was oh, it's interesting because they saw him. Oh, someone's in the water. Okay, all right, cool. So because they weren't finding him the whole movie. Oh, someone had some eagle eyes. Like because for real, if they were real, someone would have spotted you. Like okay, cool. We see this guy. Get this guy, and they were actually trying. That was all believable. Was, okay, that was the first time I felt like oh, all right. But because in the back of your mind, it's Steven Seagal, he's gonna be okay. But you hope maybe like, oh, this is one of the early movies that they found him. That they made a movie with Steven Seagal who actually had there was like some real sense of peril, even if it was like a little bit. Like, okay, all right, I'm kind of worried for him now. They spotted him, they're all after him, and when they get the hook on him, and he comes out of the water, he's all his jacked up. Like, okay, all right. So he's actually jacked up. The problem with that though, that's as far as it went. Because after that, he gets bandaged up and he's cool. Now, if that were Die Hard, that injury would have been that would have impacted the rest of his stuff. Like that's when McClane steps on the glass, that's with him the rest of the movie. Like that doesn't like he's not like, oh yeah, running off that after he steps on the glass. So it's like that impacts him. So I feel like this is where okay, now he's not now I'm not worried about I'm not worried about Casey anymore. Like this once he gets hang in there, Case, right? 2 seconds
No,
later, he's normal. It's regular. It's like he's cracking jokes, he's smirking, he smirks a little bit, like he smiles at the wrong times. Like the smiles are weird. Like he does smile, but
he smiles at the wrong time.
like you just what you guys playing like poker or something like that? Like, oh, I won. Oh yeah, we won. That's weird. Come on, man. Like just like
This guy is like, yeah, there's just nothing this guy does that seems unmanufactured by like five suits behind the scenes.
come on,
And
man.
I think it shows that if you got a character, which he always plays the same guy, and this person's untouchable and he's never in danger really, because he can't really play that well, being the person who's getting injured or the chips are down. There's only so many films of this guy you're going to be able to do, and he made a movie like almost every year.
He was very busy in the early 90s, early mid 90s.
You know, who else was busy? His balding, because apparently he just grew hair because he had less hair before this movie.
Oh, he
Which
did?
is,
I didn't know that actually. He did?
yeah, oh
I
yeah,
didn't realize that. I
because he had his
didn't
real hair back then. It was like it was starting to move
it
back.
was going back. Yeah.
Yeah, he was running around like that. This is back when he had his ponytail.
Hell yeah.
So
Yeah.
the thing, okay, so if you're gonna get a Steven Seagal film, you're gonna be like, all right, I got a Steven Seagal film. I know what I'm going into, right? So at least you're gonna think you're gonna see some great action,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
That's
Yeah. No, I
all
think
you're signing up for,
yeah,
right? So how do you feel as though how did the director do, and how did the Seagal do with the I guess the karate that he was doing? So
okay. Yeah,
so
that's a great
so
question.
so how would you say that it held up to that? Because that's what it's promising. Like
Oh yeah.
this guy is awesome, and this director knows how to shoot it, apparently, right? That's
Yeah.
what they're
No, I think
saying.
yeah.
So what did you think?
So I think so there's two things. One, a lot of the action feels like a lot of the direct action with where Seagal's involved feels almost cookie cutter to some of the other action movies he was in up to that point. Where and the director had watched enough because Steven Seagal was already a big name at that. By the time Under Siege came out, he was already like the dude. He was already like pretty well known, and he'd already had like a slew of movies where he was doing some form of martial arts in some way. That director, forget the guy, director who directed the film, but he'd seen enough movies of Seagal's to know what he physically could do and how to shoot it. Right?
Andrew Davis. Andrew Davis
Exactly.
is the
Andrew Davis. Thank you. That's it. That I'm sure he knew enough. Go
and
ahead.
he made a Seagal film before
Right,
this.
right, exactly.
Above the Law.
Wow, that was the one. That was Bobby Lupo and them, right? Wasn't that one? I think that was him and Bobby.
I'm not even gonna ask why. I'm gonna I'm not even gonna ask how you knew that. I don't want you to incriminate yourself, so we're gonna go ahead and delete that. We're gonna retake it. We're gonna retake it from the top. We're gonna edit that out. The fact that you knew that on a drop, above the law. Above the law, outside the
Outside
law,
the
hard to
law.
kill, out for justice, out to kill.
The titles, that's right. We're so not only does Stephen Go he has a lot of similar characters, and so that's the first wave. But also when you get to the late 2010, the early 2010s, the 2000s and 2010s, there's a slew of similar titles like whatever the Exit Wounds, whatever. Like there's ones that it's like they're offshoots of the 80s 90s titles.
Yeah. It's like the
Contraband,
resurgence.
yeah, yeah.
Contraband, contraception, collateral damage, collateral shoot. Like it's like, what are you doing?
And at that point, it feels like okay, I'm sure Steven Seagal had a hand in those titles. I feel like the later ones, because I feel like he's either co-writing them, he's doing something because most of those films we talked about this that they're directed to DVD release, they're direct to video releases. None of those
Yes.
movies were in theaters. Like at that point, it's like, well, okay, Steven Seagal, like the star of Steven Seagal, you could argue has waned from like big screen versions, but he's still out there making movies. So we're gonna he's in the same movies. It's like the same type of movies, but he's older. The stories are like they're not really maybe except being in the city. Now he's in Japan or he's in some kind of like some other Asian setting where he's like the sensei of some
He's the
one.
sensei
Yeah,
of
he's like a
what?
sensei one. He was like a
Of
sensei.
Kentucky Fried Chicken? Like what the heck is he gonna be a sensei of, man? It's like I don't know. I mean, it's so sad because it's the same guy. He's playing the same guy and he's 70. His character never changed. Ex-Marine, does everything. You don't want to mess with him.
That's
Purple Heart,
yeah.
efficient at hand to hand. You don't want to mess with him. Can shoot any artillery. It's like if you see, because I've seen like what reviews of the last like 20 movies he's done, because there's one guy who just makes fun of him. It's the same thing. He's the same guy. And so I think with this film, people hearken it to be the zenith. Like this is the top. Like this is the best he ever did. And I can see having a full studio support behind it, what they believe to be a competent director
Yeah. Oh yeah.
and a credible actor. Yeah, Gary Busey was still a credible
Hey,
actor at the
Gary
time.
Busey he's actually
I
was
love Gary Busey.
good.
Before his car accident, he was great. He's
Oh
always
yeah.
great.
Yeah. He was
And then
still
Tommy Lee Jones, like you got Tommy Lee Jones
yeah,
before he
yeah.
became expensive. Yeah.
Exactly. Right. Because I also like this movie did have some things that come from it. Like speaking of Tommy Lee Jones, right after this, he went and did The Fugitive,
Yeah.
right? And then
Same
came
director.
yeah, same director, got the
Yeah.
Oscar for that. Then U.S. Marshals, also very good. Like he, Tommy Lee Jones as an actor, because personally, I know you, which Tommy Jones might have been like he's two-faced in this movie, but to me, which he is, but to me, I felt like Tommy Lee Jones actually was pretty good. Like he actually he was pretty solid as an
I
actor.
loved him. Yeah, I loved him.
Like he was playing like, oh, he's this guy. He's got this guy. He's committing to like the juice. He's not breaking. In fact, you could argue like a lot of the actors around Steven Seagal in this movie were actually pretty good. Even some of the henchman dudes had some like little bits of like, okay, this guy's good. The bald black dude was cool. Hey, Stranding's trying to get him to go. Let's go. We got 4 minutes, whatever. Like, okay, all right, I'm with it. I believe this dude. Which I thought that guy was gonna. Those guys, like the tech dude with the glasses, the black dude, and like the last three like henchman dudes right near the end. I thought those guys were gonna have like more significant deaths. Like you at least have like how Die Hard had there was the one tall big German that he
Yeah, of
fought.
course. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. You got to have that dude, and then that guy comes back later like I was thinking, okay, the black dude's gonna be this dude.
Do
And
you really think that guy was like henchman number one?
supposed to be like okay, Gary Busey was he was gone at that stage. Like you're not gonna all right, cool. So the only other physically imposing dude who's gonna give this martial arts expert, this a real run for his money. Because Tyrannus wasn't really it. Like they had like they trying to we're the same. No, you're not. You're not really. You're absolutely not. Like there's no way. For everything we saw, Casey Ryback do the whole movie, you knew Tyrannus was done
Yeah.
immediately. Tyrannus never did. He didn't. It was nothing physical about this. This dude was like he was. He was Joker. He was like he was like cartoon. He was the cartoon character to Ryback is like the stoic. Every now and again smirk. Make some joke with like sexual innuendo to the
Unbeknownst to himself, probably because he's an idiot.
Like, oh,
Yeah.
okay. All right, that's where we're at. Okay, it's like
I'm surprised that the guy didn't just poop himself when Ryback showed up, just crap all over himself. So intimidating of a figure. The thing I was shocked by this time was just how poor the his hand-to-hand combat was. Like how over
oh
like
yeah,
there's not much of it.
right.
And
No, it's
whatever's there, I mean he is holding the knife all weird.
yeah,
Like
he's
he's
doing
holding the
like
knife like
the extra
this.
little thing, like the
Yeah, dude, which is like, all right, cool. I can see you doing that. I like that, Ryback. I see what you're doing there. But yet again, it's cut to smithereens. It's
and
so
the
cut.
under the arm one. He said,
Yeah,
like,
like he's treating him like he's a side of beef or something, you know, like a pork cut. So I was just disappointed by that. I think that's what you sign up for, and I didn't. He didn't even break an arm. Did he break one arm?
no, I don't think he did. Oh, I think he did like a hand. There was a hand twisty thing, which is not
We,
right
we
because the
need
thing about it, you need him to break some bones. This is
we
the
need elbows snapped stat. When you get a Seagal film, I want him in a, I
this is
don't know
yeah.
what ship it was, but we need a pool hall in that ship somewhere. And we need to
Oh
get him in that pool hall.
yeah.
And he needs to, again, fight 20 dudes. And we need about 18 of those elbows to snap right off. It's
That's
a simple request.
the break. Yeah, he has to at least break right.
He's got
But
to break the like break it in half,
right.
and then have it
Yeah.
like that. And he needs to grab cue balls and just use that as weapons. Like every film, he should have had that in his ledger. Like put that back in the film. I'm sure even though the ship moves and so pool wouldn't make sense because the balls would get all
Right.
messed up, we got to figure out a way, an ergonomic way to keep that
We're
going.
right to do. That's the other thing I forgot because even at that stage, there most all of his movies had at least something, an arm or leg, something being broken. And you're right, this movie didn't really have any breaking. There was twisting and like doing, and then there was like a one eye gouge thing, but like you didn't really have any like broken bones. So I feel like
And look, let's speaking of the ship, how just uninteresting is seeing a ship move? Because in the beginning of the film, I know you caught there was like six of those helicopter scenes where it's like, oh, check it out. And I'm like, this thing's barely going one knot. And it's like the music's bumping. You're like,
yeah,
we're gonna, let's go. And it's just like, this thing is, I think 5 feet off of port at all times. Like they didn't have clearance to take it to the sea. It
yeah.
wasn't seaworthy. So did you find it to be something somewhat lackluster?
So I could see. I didn't. I didn't actually think about it. I think the only thing that was probably the one thing that wakes you up if you're paying attention is the dolphins. You see the dolphins jump out of the. There's a sequence where it's just going, you're like, oh, dolphins. Just go, oh, that's kind of cool. You
What
can tell.
was that? Was like a Wes Anderson film. Like,
Yeah,
what
yeah.
was that? Was that real? That had to be real, right?
I feel like that was real. And I feel like that's why they would. That's the only thing. That's we're gonna keep that in because it's nice. That's a cool shot with the dolphins jumping out. Oh, okay, cool. But yeah, but you're right. There was like 10,000. There was 10 shots of different angles of the and like the yeah, we're just like, okay, we're gonna get this is gonna be on a ship. Where I think really maybe 2 shots would have been enough to know. We know where we are. We know
We saw the poster.
yeah, there's a ship, what's going on. Like this like which by the way, okay, speaking respect how you had George and Barbara Bush on the really for real.
I wrote that down.
I was like, oh, they had the real. They were on that ship or whatever ship whatever ship that was used for the for that sequence.
I wrote that down. I'm like, how did they get the president in there?
Okay, that gave it some more. Try to give it some more, like
Some of that juice.
yeah, yeah. It's like okay, we're gonna give. All right, we're gonna make this is a serious affair. We need something like so. But oddly, like, and they're hey, go Casey, get your whites on. So we'll make it. So we'll try to get you a meeting with the president. So you're trying to
That is the first thing they say to Ryback is the captain goes to him and says, "Put your whites on. I want to introduce you to the president of the United States." Why? Why introduce this guy, the cook, to the president of the United States? Like
captain knows why. If the captain's saying that, he knows why.
further evidence that he was senile and that he was losing that he was close to the white light, man. Because that is the first thing he says to him. And I was just like, I wrote it in my notes. I'm like, why are you gonna show him to the president? Why? I don't get it. But again, it just hammers how amazing this guy
Yeah,
is.
he's
And you believe,
exactly. That's
oh, and
what
he doesn't want to meet him. So I'm
yeah.
not about that. It's just like, oh, great. He's so humble. Sorry to interrupt, but that was something I wanted to hit because I wrote that in my notes as like, oh my God, they're hitting us over the head.
Yeah, right. He's the lowly cook that everybody loves, who's humble and also like, but he's good at everything. Like he can literally do everything. Like there's not like, whenever the obstacle comes, there's like what is the I can't think. There's not one thing in the movie where it comes to
Electrician,
yeah,
he can meld.
right,
He flew a helicopter, knows karate, shoots everybody, knows geometry was it geometry pretty well because he
right,
knew it was
yeah.
gonna
He
fall,
knew
the pole was
right.
gonna
He
fall
knew right
perfectly
the
on
timing,
him.
the math of it. He knew the timing of it. We're gonna hit him
He's
this way.
he's so funny, and he gets the girl.
And, and he can bake, so he can cook and he can bake. The pies were
He
burnt.
can
It wasn't his fault though. He was trapped he was trapped,
no,
right?
yeah.
If
He
they
would
had
have
caught
had
the
him
pies
out.
sooner, they would have been great pies. They would
Yeah,
just
Paul Hollywood from the
right
British
for
Bake Off would have
Vegas show. Yeah,
loved it. Shook his hand, would have shook his hand. He's that good. If Paul Hollywood was around back then, he would have shook his hand. That's how
that's
good
what
he
would have
was.
happened. He would have been Paul Hollywood before he met the president. That's
So
what.
you have a film where the character Jordan, the playmate, is a you need her in the film, I guess, to have, but not even a damsel. She's not even a damsel in distress until midpoint, right? Because they grab her and they try to take her away.
Right.
You try to also make her seem tougher by having the machine gun and being an active participant
Yeah.
during these corridor shootouts, following him. It shows that he's such a strong figure. She needs to follow him. I'm better off with you than those guys. So it shows all he's like the badass. He's so demeaning to her and talks down to her, sarcastic with her when she's really like, dude, she's seen some crap, dude. And you're
Right.
being mean to her. She's sarcastic back to him. And then in the end, like at the end of the film,
Yeah.
she really wants to to commiserate this with Steven Seagal. He's so hot and she likes him. Like how false of a note did that feel to you at the end?
That's a great question because and I'll tell you why because it's something that immediately jumped out to me when I first watched it and it did this time too and I rewatched it. It's the only thing that feels for all the nonsensical. There's a lot of stuff that's in this movie that's nonsensical. It's kind of wild, like given what's going on with Casey Ryback and how we're supposed to believe this dude is like the one savior of the situation. Okay, cool. I can go on the ride though. I'll ride with that. But I think the one thing that really took me out of the movie was that kiss at the end. That was just like it was just like it felt the most forced, the most sort of a holdover from the late that felt like it should have been from like a late 80s movie, an 80s movie versus early 90s movie where it was just like okay, we're in this other space where that feels like it's a tacked on thing because they spend so much time in the movie together on this adventure that you got to give them a little bit of a audiences want to see them consummate a little bit. We're not going to have them do the full stuff. Just give them Casey has to be rewarded. But wait, first of all, if she said usually what happens in movies like this when the woman gives the guy a kiss, oh thank you, you saved my life, blah whatever. This dude, yo, Casey, show me some moves, and I'll show you a move. That's his line. Casey's line is, "I'll show you a move," and then he proceeds to kiss.
He did. He did.
Girl, and it's like, and everyone's like, oh, and it's the other thing too. Everyone loves him so much. Like, oh yeah, everyone's clapping and stuff. It's like there was nothing like particularly juicy about that. Like it was not even. It's yeah. I think that's the only thing that felt probably the most false. Oddly, out of everything else in the movie, it was the most false thing to me. And you know me. I'm not a huge fan in movies where certain like even romantic things that veer into that territory don't feel earned. That didn't feel earned to me. So if it was earned, okay, I can go with it, but it didn't feel earned to me. So I'm like, well, that just feels like it just came out of nowhere. There was nothing in the movie throughout that actually that felt like it was leading up to that. There was nothing just like
Yeah.
what? Like, so no, it felt very false to me. Like it was like this is I can't get mad. I'll go. I'll buy everything else, but that's the only thing. It's like, and that's where you end up. And then the thing is like they followed up with Ed, we're at the funeral for the captain or whatever it is, and you got to hit him with the salute, whatever it is, the salute. Like that was cool. Why couldn't you just skip to that, cut to that? I feel like drop the kiss, just move that up. Hey, you got a solid, you know, action movie there. Solid. It's solid. It's not great. It's not, it could be a lot worse. But I think by that you at least give Casey Ryback as a character a little bit of depth. There's one moment where he finds the captain and he covers the captain with this
Mhm.
naval jacket. Having the sequence at the end where he salutes the captain is those two things make it feel like okay, Casey has some. He's not really out for like for revenge really in the movie. That's not really where he's about. But I think that actually gives it like, oh, that dude meant something to him. Okay, cool. Like let me feel. I want to feel a little bit of something that feels that little bit true. Like between those characters. That's if it's just between those characters, that's cool. But Casey and the homegirl, like, nah, that didn't feel true to me. So yeah, that's that. Did it feel false to you too? Like,
Yeah,
where,
of
where
course. Yeah,
you were at now? Like, where you
I think it felt like a producer's note. Like it seemed like a
right?
relic
Yeah,
from a bygone era where it's like,
right.
you got to get the girl. And he's
Like,
like, it doesn't make sense. You got to get the girl. It was a similar thing when I know they interviewed Arnold a long time ago about Predator, and they had the
oh yeah,
Predator. There's a
yeah.
Latina girl that they find there who's
Yeah, that's
the
right.
only person who's left alive after the Predator has skinned everyone and murdered everyone. And then one producer's night was like, why don't we just have
Yeah,
why doesn't Arnold and her just hook up in the bush? And he's just like, because it would be really weird if there was this alien murdering people, and we're in the middle of the jungle running for our lives. And I said, hey, by the way, let's go behind that bush and make whoopee really fast. And even he had the foresight to be like, that sounds ridiculous.
yeah. It's like that doesn't work for the like. This is
Meanwhile,
yeah.
Seagal is all for kissing Jordan, that
But think
pervert.
about that. If we're talking about like in outside of that, like Steven Seagal, it seems like he's the kind of person that not only does he take roles that show him, but also he probably has input on how if the character he's gonna play a character that's a real like this guy's a real good guy. He's real solid. Cool. Seagal seems like he's the kind of person to sign on for this role and go, you know what? Yeah, he's good, but that's not enough. He has to be extra good. He has to be good at this. He has to have all these medals. He has to this and that. This, he has to be like the best guy ever. He can do all right. Like I feel like he's the kind of guy who wants to take roles like that, including get the girl right. Even if it doesn't logically make sense for what the no. The story is not about. It's not about this girl. She gets caught up in the mid. She's caught up. It's not about you hooking up with her. That's not the. Now, granted, there are movies where that can work, but it's not this movie. You think of Speed, for instance. Sandra Bullock's character was a casualty of the situation. That worked. Those two had chemistry, though. That stuff was built. It was like you felt it from the beginning. That stuff was built into the situation. So when they kiss or whatever it is, that works. Like it's
You and I are the friends cheering.
right. We're like, yes, right. Because people know they're going to
Yeah.
make it through. Hey, they might not make it through this. This movie, it's almost clear from the beginning. You know they're going to get out. You know in your heart of hearts that Jordan's not going to die. She's not dying, and Casey Ryback's not dying. He's not going to die. So, but that doesn't mean they have to kiss. Get him out of the mix. Hey, nice to meet you. Glad we made it out. Boom. Do you go? Let her do her thing. You go do your thing. That's true. The kid, what we got is like that's not true. It's just it doesn't work.
It's an awful ploy for it seems like it's driven by ego that this person wanted to make out with Miss July. And it makes the movie really weird at the end where you're like,
yeah,
I feel
right.
kind of bad for her. Like all of a sudden I feel worse for her than I do the real, the people that were murdered in this and on this ship. It's like she had to kiss this guy who hasn't brushed his teeth in 8 years, and his bolognese looks like sewer water. So there's just no sympathy for me with this film. It's a relic of an old time, and there is nothing in me left anymore of that rah rah rah. Let me turn off my brain. There isn't. There has to be some kind of craftsmanship. There's got to be some kind of performance that lures me in, and there's none.
There's nothing. But so let me ask
It's
you this.
everyone around him. Like everyone around him's
Okay,
cool. Like Jordan, I
yeah,
like her.
yeah.
Erica tried really hard. Tommy Lee, I'm in. Gary Busey, psh, you have me at hello. Old Captain guy, 3 great scenes with him before he kicks it. But Steven Seagal, this guy I was really disappointed with what I saw. I was like, man, this guy's worse. And I'd seen Hard to Kill like what, 10 years
Oh,
ago? And
okay.
that movie was so bad. That
Is
movie's so
it worse?
hilarious.
Is it worse than Under Siege?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
worse than Under Siege.
It's hilarious though. It's hilarious. He gets in a coma and he has like a fake beard that looks like ass fuzz was shaved off and glued on his face. It is the worst beard. And then there's like Florence Nightingale syndrome or whatever, where the nurse falls
Oh
in
yeah,
love with him
yeah.
randomly
What? It's like weird. Like
with that ass fuzz face. It's so he's like he plays a guy who's like he hasn't moved in years, so he's like, and so he like can't move and he's like laid up and he's like all drooling because his body's been messed. It's just that movie is awful. So I don't think he's ever made a good movie if this is the echelon.
if that's the peak, if Under Siege is the peak.
If this is the peak, then I don't want to be get me off this ride.
Yeah.
Little do you know your viewers are gonna have at least 4 more of these. And we're gonna go through at least 4 more of these movies.
So we're not going to talk about legacy. I know this is one of the questions, like when we close on a movie, what do you think this film's legacy is going to be 10, 20 years, whatever? Because obviously we're living in sort of post, it's been a lot of years since this movie's come out. And there are a lot of people out there online who have a lot to say about Steven Seagal's career and film choices and things like that. So it's not that this film has legs in a way that's like, oh, this is going to be, I think it's going to be a hit to somebody, in 30 years from now. Somebody might enjoy this movie. Sure, it's possible. So I think I'll amend the question and say something like, and ask like, how do you think that Under Siege is going to will remain one of the, if this is the peak of Steven Seagal's at least early action career, does this movie stand the test of time in terms of in terms of the material it gives people to make fun of? Like how how is there any saving grace in this film? So you can make fun of the whole movie except this one part. Is there anything like one piece that I think that
I think I'm in the minority. I think most people enjoy this film for what it is. I think people have a much more easier time turning off their brain. I think they find his character to be mysterious and interesting to watch, not alluring. I think the film has definitely been something that, we're still reviewing it so many years later. It's a film that's super relevant during that era of the 90s with Speed, with Die Hard. It's normally thrown up there. It is. It's not as good as those, not even close, but it's a film that it captures an era really well of what it was like to live through those, after the Reagan years and the Bush years.
Yeah.
The only thing that to really say that was really great about it was, I guess, still the concept. The concept wasn't driven into the ground yet. The idea of you're on an enclosed space and you need to, like a video game, go level to level and to reach the final boss. It's something that was done with, Enter the Dragon. I believe Enter the Dragon was the one with the tournament. The same idea, like it's a video game. You get to the final boss. The same thing with Die Hard, where you got to earn your right to fight go level to level to fight the final boss. So it works. And I think it's still part of that era. I think there's the nostalgia, and there's also that aw shucks movies they didn't ask too much of you. They were just stupid and there was things blowing up and we loved it for some reason. And I think it's a representation of a bygone era. I think that's what it does. Yeah.
You're right on it. I think about the how movies didn't ask that much of audiences back then. There was something that was there was an earnesty about they were earnest. A lot of movies during that time, they were just straight up. There wasn't a ton of stuff in there that there might have been like some like under coded messaging or whatever. And some of the films are in that time, but it wasn't sort of as like outlandish, sort of in your face as some of the movies do it today, where it's like there's a clear agenda, or it's not as clear, but it's there. It's like it's more, this movie came out during a time that you're still, and then you're coming out of, where there was a lot of times in the late 80s, especially where Americans versus the Russians, where the bad guys weren't the Russians in this movie, but they were in a lot of other action movies. They were like the main, a lot of main villains. Here, and the movie was good enough. I think, box office wise, that at least it spawned a sequel. Someone wanted to see a part two. So, and this also it wasn't like a direct to video release. This was also we had enough money. We made a lot of money, so we're gonna make another movie. We're gonna make another one. And like we talked about the cookie cutter situations, like, hey, Die Hard on a train now. Now we're gonna do it on a train, which is like we're like Die Hard was Die Hard Die Harder. Die Hard 2 was you got planes. You got to put them on planes, airports and stuff, and like it's like so the concept again. It was still fairly fresh. You're right. It wasn't like, but a lot of movies were doing cookie cutter type of stuff where it was all right. If anything, that's the I would add. I think probably the yeah, this stems from Die Hard, but part of the other legacy of Under Siege really is taking that concept further. Just take the Die Hard concept, and Under Siege was it worked. It worked enough to we got a sequel of that. Let's do another type of Under Siege type movie where whoever is going to make their other movies, we're gonna add to the because at that point they're thinking about Die Hard, but they're not, because we're like, oh, we just saw Steven Seagal do this movie, and let's do a movie like that and have better actors, have other things going on. I think there's enough going on where, however silly and nonsensical it is, there's a lot that's still earnest about it, and I think that's the thing that really is what I think, because you're right. People, you watch this movie, you're not going to be thinking too deeply about stuff.
The earnestness is very apparent because there's a different vibe from those who make the action films nowadays that are more video or straight to video,
Oh
where
yeah,
they know they're aiming at the base amount of people, like the base level, and a small amount of people, and that energy is being brought there where it seems like no one really gave a crap.
yeah,
But back in the early 90s, this was an action blockbuster.
yeah.
Like we have to remember, like we didn't have computers. Like we had those. That's why I know those dolphins were real.
Yeah, they
Like
were.
those
I'm saying
dolphins
they
were
were real.
there and they're real.
They
But
were real.
like explosions were still really cool.
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh
we hadn't, it's been so long that we've seen all these explosions and we've seen all these CGI enhanced explosions that it was enough back then. And the ones who were making this film said, we're going to make a lot of money and we're going to have a lot of people watch this movie. Isn't this going to be badass? And you can feel that they think that this is going to be awesome.
oh yeah.
So the vibe of it is so different where it's like, no, understand that they knew going into this is a big deal and that the hype for it was big because it's like a lot of explosions and the spectacle of it to go to a theater and be excited with this was still relatively it wasn't over yet. And
Yeah. Oh
so that spirit, you can still feel as though like, oh, this is a movie that's going to be it's aimed to be successful financially. It has that gravitas. It's like The Rock or
oh yeah.
all of those other John Woo films that he did in America. All these action films, like these were like the best we had in terms of trying to catch the widest net.
Yeah.
And I think
You're absolutely right.
especially with these films, the view of whatever it does in the theater doesn't matter really because it's all about the video rentals. So it's money coming
Yeah.
in, but
That's what it
also
is.
let's
Yeah.
make sure we make this as broad and as dumb as possible because we're going to be selling it to other countries.
Yeah.
And so other countries, the subtleties of acting won't really catch. Like my
Yeah.
father growing up, he loved these action films. All he did was watch them because he didn't know English and
Yeah.
he loved the spectacle. And he was like, these are the films that he kept watching all the time because he didn't want to have to get the nuances of hearing English and like I'm gonna miss things.
right,
And remember the VHSs, it's not like you can get subtitles on them. You couldn't, it's
right,
not like DVDs where you could flip it on. You'd
yeah,
have to just listen and be like, I hope I get this. But the thing that translates everything of every country is bodies stacking due to explosions and shootouts. And it was the base level, but it generated the revenue, and they knew they were gonna make a pretty big cash in and a pretty big impact with this lower base type exploration of action films.
immediately going in. You could mute the movie, put it on. You know who the villain is. You know who the hero is, and most people they're going to be on that ride. They're going to be like, yeah, I want to. Oh yeah, I'm with the. Look at this hero overcome these obstacles, whatever it is. You don't at that point. You don't really care really about the details of the obstacles or what's. You just this is a it's a roller coaster. It's like a thrill ride. You go to a theme park. It's a theme park ride. You just gonna. These are the movies that give you little things to hang your hat on, and just go with it. I'll add to that too because that was actually my like what got me when I first watched it. When I decided I'm going to watch this movie all the way through the first time, I was like, all right, I know Steven Seagal. I know what you're going to get with the Steven Seagal movie, and then it's action. So there's the action piece. You don't at that point. It doesn't really matter what else is going on because the scenario doesn't matter. Who's around him doesn't matter. He's the hero, and even if he's a villain or like a gray character, he's doing stuff that's going to be you're going to root for this guy. He's set up in a position you're going to root for that dude. That's the ride you're on, and that's what I was going to get on that ride and push play and watch this movie. Michael Bay movie. How Michael Bay movies like prime Michael Bay movies or feel like that. You just explosions, hot girls, whatever, people looking all steamy and sweaty and stuff. You know immediately what that is. That's what you're going to get. Nothing nuance. Nothing.
There isn't, and it's just the rewatchability where it's like you can find it at any point in the movie and just continue on. It's like you didn't miss anything. You've seen it already, and it doesn't matter. You're just there for the spectacle of it, and you can turn your brain off, and you can walk out of the room, fix something to eat, walk back in with it in the background, and then you didn't feel like you missed something, like there was something critical that nothing. Everything is said to you point blank. You can listen
Right.
to it. Everything is said. There's no subtleties that they're directing. They're not showing something that, oh, the way it shined off that really symbolizes something else. It's a worker, it's a blue collar type film, you know?
Agreed. I think yeah, and I think if anything, this is what you get when Under Siege and movies like it, sort of there are better movies. Like we know there are better movies that hit the same beats that have sequences and that you actually want to watch, even though you've seen them multiple times. Sometimes for some movies you want to come back. I want to see that. Like it's so cool. That's when I watched it. This is really not one of those movies. It doesn't have like an action centerpiece. You can't say, oh, that one shootout was the best thing about it. You can't really say it about this movie. There's really just kind of like it's it's a paint by numbers type of action movie. Really, when you look at that. So I think that's the juice with Under Siege.
How many stars then out of 5?
Oh, okay.
Before we let it go, what are you gonna do?
Out of 5 stars, I think probably I think 2.5 is probably I give, which might be fairly generous. Just probably I would usually maybe like 3, but like I think this movie is 2.5. It's 2.5. Depending on my mood, it might be 3 on a good day. Today, 2.5 feels like is where I'm at. Where you at on Under Siege? 2.
Give it the big O2.
202. Solid.
Big O2. I'll give it 1 star each for Tommy Lee and Gary Busey.
Yeah.
They each get 1. I was gonna give a whole like half star for
Jordan
for Gary Busey. When Gary Busey dresses up as the female, does the dance.
Right, that's a whole other right.
I'm just like this is the film I want. I want this now. I want him to have it the entire movie. But I think a 2 is a healthy score for me. And I think it's the same. I've rated it the same each time I saw it. I've seen it twice.
Like right, didn't change didn't change the juice at all.
No, at all.
Okay, that's fair enough.
All right. I hope you all enjoyed that conversation. I know I did. As always, Maestro, thank you for your time. Those chats are always so much fun and full of insight and just a lot of laughs. And so it's always good to do that. So I'm looking forward to the next time we get to do it. And those of you who stuck around and watched, thank you for your time. And getting ready to make some moves pretty soon over here, so I got to get out of here. But in the meantime, take it easy. Have a good week, and I'll see you in the next one.